What happens when an exhausted farmer stumbles upon a dying elephant trapped in a pit and ends up standing alone against armed poachers? You won't believe how a single shovel flipped the power balance in the most unexpected way. You ever wake up thinking today's going to be just another Tuesday? You feed the dog, fix the fence, maybe curse at the sky for threatening rain and call it a day? That's how mine started. But no. That Tuesday decided to throw me face first into the kind of mess they make documentaries about. Name's Rajiv Patel. Yeah, not the cowboy name you'd expect, but I've got boots older than some of the loudmouths in town, and I can dig a post hole straighter than your average contractor. I live on the edge of what they call a protected zone, which is a fancy way of saying jungle full of things that could flatten your truck or stare straight through your soul. Anyway, I was out in the backfield picking up dry branches like any sane man would after a stormy night. That's when I heard it. It wasn't a bird. It wasn't a bear. It was something deeper. A sound that made your ribs tighten like a vice. Like the earth itself was grieving. I froze, listening. And there it was again, low, long, and soaked in pain. Whatever it wasn't having a good day. And apparently neither was I. So I grabbed my flashlight and my old shovel. Not because I thought I'd need it, but because instincts are weird like that. And followed the sound. I had to fight through brush so thick it could have swallowed a tractor. 30 minutes later, I found it. Or rather, him. There was an elephant. A massive one, flat on his side, wedged into a hole deeper than a two-car garage. His skin was cut up, his breathing slow, but his eyes, those eyes looked right at me, and I swear, they weren't wild. They weren't animal. They were tired. Like the eyes of an old man who'd seen too much and just wanted one quiet night. My first thought? What in the world happened here? My second? Well, I can't just walk away, can I? Let me tell you, it takes a special kind of stubborn to look at a 10,000-pound animal and say, I'll help. I climbed into the pit like a man with a plan. Spoiler, I didn't have one. I just started shoveling, clearing out dirt around his legs to relieve the pressure. He didn't flinch. Not once. Just stared. I talked to him, because what else do you do? You picked the wrong hole, buddy, I muttered. But don't worry, I've had worse Mondays. The night dragged on. Every 10 minutes I heard coyotes yapping nearby, probably wondering if the buffet was ready. I threw a rock in their direction. It wasn't much, but it bought us time. At one point, I climbed back up and brought him water. Just a small bottle, but he reached out his trunk, weak and slow, and pulled it toward his mouth like a child being handed a blanket. That broke me a little. It wasn't majestic. It wasn't cinematic. It was just quiet, heavy, real. By dawn, I had dug enough of a slope for him to maybe crawl out. Maybe, if I could get help. I didn't have a radio, no signal either. So I sat, thinking. And that's when I heard the engines, not the forest rangers, not locals, number. This was the other kind, loud, fast, familiar, the kind that doesn't show up to help. I peeked up through the trees, heart pounding. And there they were, 3 dirt bikes revving like they owned the forest. I knew those guys, not by name, but by smell, poachers. The same guys who'd been leaving traps in the dark for months now. Everyone in town talked, but nobody acted. Until now. I had a lopsided ramp, a half-dead elephant, and a rusty shovel. And they were coming straight at me. What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss what unfolded when they got closer. And I stood my ground. So picture this. You've been up all night in the dirt, talking to an elephant like he's your drinking buddy, sweating through your shirt, hands blistered from digging. You're running on nothing but adrenaline and stubbornness. And suddenly, trouble shows up on wheels. They came in like they owned the land. 3 guys on dirt bikes, masked up with mirrored sunglasses, camo pants, and that whole I watch too many action movies attitude. The lead one even had a machete strapped to his back, like he was auditioning for some low-budget jungle flick. They didn't say a word at first, just cut their engines and stared down into the pit like they'd found what they were looking for. And judging by the look on their faces, yeah, they had. I stepped between them and the elephant without thinking. The guy behind me might have been 30 times my size, but at that moment, I was the one carrying the shovel and the guts. "Looks like you got yourself a big hole and a bigger problem," one of them finally said, grinning like he'd cracked the world's funniest joke. I didn't laugh. "You're not welcome here," I told him, calm, steady, but make no mistake, my knees were screaming. The second one spit on the ground and glanced around. "No trucks, no phones, just you and Dumbo here. Not the smartest place to play hero, old man." Hero. That word stuck in my head. I didn't come here to be one. I came here because I heard pain and couldn't walk away. But now I was standing between a dying creature and three guys who saw him as nothing but dollar signs on four legs. They started circling the pit, one of them pulling out a rope, the other checking the slope I'd dug, the same slope I'd nearly passed out carving out with that shovel they kept eyeing like it was a toy. "I'll make you a deal," the leader said, voice syrupy with fake charm. "Step aside. Let us do what we came for, and we'll pretend we never saw each other." I took a slow breath, tightened my grip on the shovel, and smiled. Not the friendly kind. "I got a better deal. You turn those bikes around, forget you ever saw this place, and I won't turn this thing into a headline." He blinked. "You threatening me? Number, I'm warning you. You heard him? You'll have every news station from New York to New Delhi sniffing through your closets. You ready for that?" It wasn't bravado. It was desperation dressed up as courage. But it hit something. Because for a second they hesitated. Then the smallest of the three stepped forward. "You think the world cares about one elephant? You think people stop scrolling for that?" That one got to me. Not because he was wrong, but because I'd heard that tone before. That tired, casual cruelty. The kind people wear when they want to feel big by making someone, or something, feel small. So I didn't answer with words. I raised the shovel, not to swing it, but to show I wouldn't move. Not an inch. Behind me, the elephant let out a weak, rattling breath. That sound hit the silence like a bomb. For just a moment, it wasn't about the rope or the machete or the money. It was about the weight of that breath, the kind of sound you don't forget, even if you try. They exchanged looks. Something cracked. The leader clicked his tongue, then turned back to his bike. "You're crazy," he muttered. "Maybe," I said, "but I'm still here." They revved their engines. Dust flew. And then, like a bad dream clearing in daylight, they were gone. But I didn't relax, not even close. I ran back to the elephant, checked his breathing, still shallow but there. I touched his trunk gently. "Don't check out on me now, big guy. Not after that performance." He didn't move, but his ear twitched, small, but enough. Then came the real test, getting him out. I had the slope, I had the will, but this wasn't just about strength. It was about trust, and we were running out of both. This is it, the turning point. What happens next flips everything. Stay with me. You'll want to see how this ends. Have you ever tried convincing a 10,000-pound animal to move when he's half dead, scared, and stuck in a hole? No? Let me tell you. It's right up there with trying to push a barn uphill with a wheelbarrow. After those poachers bailed, I finally had a moment to breathe, but relief is a strong word. The elephant was still down, and I was still a guy with nothing but a shovel, a flashlight low on juice, and a whole lot of nerve that was starting to wear thin. I sat beside him, wiped the sweat off my neck, and said, "All right, partner, we're still here. Let's not waste it." He didn't blink, but he was alive. Barely. I scrambled back to my place, grabbed every jug of water I could find, some old fruits, even a bucket of leftover grain I was saving for the dog. Yeah, she looked at me like I'd lost my mind, but she'd live. He might not. When I came back, he was still lying there, chest rising and falling slow like an old engine running on fumes. I poured the water into a dented tin pan, pushed it close to his face. He sniffed. Didn't drink. That's when I did something stupid. I leaned in, pressed my hand to his forehead and said, "You've made it this far. You're not going out like this. You hear me?" He moved, just a twitch, then another. His legs shifted, his trunk lifted an inch, like a flag rising half-mast. And just like that, the impossible started. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't epic, it was messy, slow, awkward, but it was real. He started to rise, one leg, then the next. I backed away, giving him space. His body shook with every movement. My heart did too. He planted his feet, looked up the slope I'd dug, and took one step. Just one. But it felt like watching a mountain walk. Then he stopped. He turned, looked at me. And for a second, time froze. There wasn't a jungle. There wasn't a pit. There wasn't even a man and an animal. Just two living things trying to understand what just happened. Then he moved again. Step after step, up the slope, slow but steady. I followed at a distance, half holding my breath, half holding back tears. Yeah, real men cry, especially when a creature that big decides life is worth trying for. He made it out, stood at the edge, swaying. I thought he might collapse, but he didn't. He just looked around, took in the sky, the trees, the absurdity of still being here. And then he turned toward me. I didn't expect anything. Maybe a nod, maybe nothing. But he reached out his trunk and touched my shoulder. Not hard, not long. Just a quiet thank you from something that had no words, but knew how to say more than most people ever could. Then he walked away, into the trees, without a sound. I stood there, covered in sweat, dirt, and probably a few fleas, and just watched. Because what else do you do when a miracle limps off into the forest? You let him go. The next day, a ranger came by. Said he'd heard engine sounds in the area. I gave him a look and said, "Yeah." There were visitors. They left quietly. He didn't ask more. But here's the thing. A few weeks later, something odd started happening. Rangers found dug-up traps, all empty, all wrecked. Every time someone tried to set one, something tore it apart, like clockwork. No one saw what did it. But I had a theory. You see, I may have helped that elephant once, but I think he decided he wasn't done yet either. Sometimes the ones we save end up protecting more than we ever could. And sometimes the quietest moments leave the loudest echoes.